if you look back into the breath of like Indians, like the Native Americans used to like put their infant children out in the snow for 5 minutes. Whenever they like would breathe out of their mouth, they'd close their mouth. Like the Native Americans used to look at European settlers and like they used to call them black mouths because like from what their diet and their mouth breathing, they call it like the breath of death. Like it was indicative of poor performance and poor health. So
yeah, well, that's why we call them mouth breathers. Like I used to call Luke the mouth breather, like huffing and puffing. You never noticed that?
Oh, big time. I just think of Eli Manning, the mouth breathing dummy.
But it's funny that it's a stereotype, but it is a legitimate problem. Like literally, like there's 20 benefits to nasal breathing. The only benefit to mouth breathing is you get oxygen and carbon dioxide in and out faster. Like it's a problem.
Well, I mean, isn't there like let's get into that a little bit. Like, why is it that we've gone in? I mean, is it laziness? Like why are people gotten into this mouth breathing? I mean, is it deviated septum? Is it something happening? I don't know. Is it congestion? Like, why would somebody default to breath out of the mouth opposed from the nose?
It's a lot of reasons. Like, I mean, you can read books like Jaws, Oxygen Advantage, Breath by James Spencer, all those books. Jaws will open your eyes to the, like, again, like cave people and like earlier humans, like they had straight teeth. Like they didn't have these narrow jaws that needed braces and all these things. They say it's from their breath and their diet. And then now you, like the nasal cavity is a body part where like you don't use it, you lose it. So like if you default to mouth breath, nasal cavity gets smaller, makes it harder to breathe in through the nose. So now it's like the path less traveled versus the easy road, which humans are fantastic at, Americans in particular. But like a lot of things will force mouth breathing. Like you can eat like crap and like the body uses oxygen as a antibacterial, antiviral, like that's the role of oxygen. It gets shipped to where it needs to be. So like to get oxygen in and out faster, you start mouth breathing, whether it's processed food or if like, again, like if your jaw ends up developing more narrow, which like the book Jaws reinforces, because you had this soft diet, you don't develop the jaw muscles and the mandible and all those things. Eventually it leads to like the easiest path, which is mouth breathing, which again, like the nose cleans and humidifies the air. You actually have the ability to access nitric oxide by stimulating that. And now if you get into like the firing pattern of the body, like the diaphragm and pelvic floor are incredibly important to like align and stabilize the spine. And like, obviously if you take a big breath in through your mouth, the chest rises. You take a big breath into your nose, the stomach rises. Belly breathing, all the like the yoga stuff you hear, but like in the same process and controlling inhales and controlling exhales, like you develop strength in the diaphragm and the pelvic floor, which is, I think, a good starting point for training, because now like if you have a good firing pattern, that's your psoas and your glutes firing first and you fire inside out. I think it's all compounding, but like the mouth breathing can be caused by, again, it's a lot of things. It's diet from like infancy on. It's obviously like all the processed foods we eat now, like they cause inflammation, and the body handles inflammation with like oxygen. It's just a cool, simple concept. And then, so now if you're breathing in through your nose, you're getting all the benefits of the nasal breathing, you're developing your core, and now you're at least have the fundamentals of a functional human.
So there was a book I read years ago called Deep Nutrition, and the lady theorized this exact deal, where they took snapshots of children's faces like over the course of history. And what they noticed was that the kids that ate more of an ancestral diet that were breastfed had dramatically wider jaws and wider noses. And it was pretty fascinating when her deal was talking about like breastfeeding, especially because as they're sucking, the child has to breathe through their nose. So now all of a sudden, if like they were bottle fed, it didn't happen in the same way. So I don't understand. I mean, my kids were breastfed exclusively for like the first 6 months. It wasn't, and then we started adding food, and like my daughters never wanted. I mean, actually, none of my kids were bottle kids. They kind of make a decision, and my wife was in on it. But that sucking motion from that like creates not only strength in the jaw and widens the nose, and it's pretty interesting to see like the westernized narrowing. It's kind of like the feet, for example. You see people that were raised without feet. I mean, there's toe splay opposed from people that were been forced into shoes, and then you see bunions and toes collapsing and the whole deal. But her deal was looking at like processed foods versus they had some dope pictures that all actually came from the Weston Price Foundation. So I don't know if you guys know, but Weston Price Foundation. Weston Price was a dentist whose son died of a tooth abscess, and he became obsessed with tooth decay. So he traveled the world looking for groups that did not have teeth and mouth and these oral issues. And so he went out and visited a bunch of, basically groups that hadn't been touched by westernized society, and he took pictures of their faces. She had a bunch of, kind of like mouth and this, and, the top of the mouth and their jaws and their noses, and tried to figure out like why what these people were doing that allowed them to be healthier. And so if you guys Google the Weston Price Foundation, it's gotten a little kooky. But they have some really good information. But this lady's book went and chronicled, looked at all the pictures, and it was amazing to see like the jaws and the noses and like, the way their faces fit into everything. And then they were showing like westernized, even to the point where they had 2 children that were twins. One was raised I want to say they're like Native American or some form of indigenous tribe. One kid was raised away from westernized society, like in an ancestral way, and the other kid was shipped off to live with a modern family, let's say. And then they brought the kids back, and like I think even at age like 17 and 18, the difference in you knew that they were twins, but the difference in face structure with like the width of the nose and then the jaw was like night and day difference. The other kid was taller, he looked more fit, his feet were better. Like it was just like, holy shit, like here's an accurate representation of what we're doing to ourselves. And at that point I was like, man, my kids didn't wear shoes for the first 2 years of their life. Like we had these like little like socky booties they would wear, but like no shoes. We still don't wear shoes in the house. It's a crazy thing when you see that stuff in real time and you realize that if I want to avoid these problems, I can't make the same mistakes that everybody else is making.
Which is such an intelligent way to like look at parenting and all that kind of stuff too. And like, like most of what you said, like a lot of that's in that Jaws book as well. So you see, like I think they have the 2 twins in there. Then they have like obviously the progression of the modern jaw or whatever they call it in there. But it makes sense. Like, why would you not? Then like the bare feet, like we've had guys we've trained most of our players and hockey guys and stuff outside barefoot. A lot of those, and then we introduced the breath work. Those guys have all PR'd in their VO2 max. Their verticals have gone up the more they've like strengthened their feet and widened their feet, all those kind of concepts. But it's super intuitive to me. I don't know why people they see that just because like everybody else is doing it. And that's always the easiest.
Because it takes work.